we've got about a half an hour left of the day. Does anybody have any questions, either e-commerce related or elements of time? That's kind of what we covered this afternoon. I'm going to go ahead and close the external, the shop piece, and we'll switch back over into...
One quick question.
Yes.
On the e-commerce side, when somebody does log in, are we tracking that at all? I mean, are we knowing who's
Oh, if they
in?
log in? I'm not sure. I'd have to look at the code. Can't remember. But what we could do is we could technically, anytime they log in, we could technically add a little flag in there and kind of a little automatic little, virtually a log note. Hey, logged in from e-commerce side.
And the marketing side's going,
Yep.
that'd be a great reverse marketing. It would be, oh, these guys just logged in and they looked at, I mean, I don't know if you can do this, but if they logged in, they were shopping for something, and a salesman could contact them and say, oh, we're really check it out.
Yep. There's lots of...
Steve have a section or a selection where they could say, for tracking those people that are logging in, just put them in the queue. Because the queue already handles all that, how long they stayed in there, whether they converted all the way to an invoice, or
That's an idea.
It would be part of the queue history. They could filter it like, okay, these were my walk-in people, and then they would even be able to look in their queue and see if there's anybody in there shopping right this second.
That's a very interesting idea.
We're taking you down the rabbit hole.
You know what? We've gone down many. And you know what's kind of interesting? If you mentioned rabbit hole, and if you're okay, I'm going to diverge for a second. So we've been playing this game for a lot of time, and we're down here exploring all these tunnels, and we're like, why in the world is nobody else down here? And then we're like, probably because it's a big, huge monster, you know, like. But we've been down a lot of tunnels, and we've picked and chosen a bunch of them that we thought are really cool. There's literally tons and tons of room. What we are doing as far as taking objects and tracking over time and wrapping whole systems together and crisscrossing and tying things, virtual world building, we are pioneering some roads, but I guarantee you, you can mark my words, you will see other people doing the same type of thing, but they will have to follow some of the similar mentalities of what we're trying to do in order to do it to this level. But there will be many down here eventually, and we're actually trying to let them know that we are down here, and we've had this whole world to explore all by ourselves. We've picked and chosen tons of tunnels that we've liked. But it's been fun. It's been fun, but there will be other people down here. So just kind of as a heads up.
I just vote for an introduction to FlexScript because everybody talks about it like it's
you know what? It's really not that big of a deal. Okay, so we had one vote for a FlexScript. Anybody else second that? Okay, a couple other seconds. Awesome.
Second on the sandwich?
No, that already happened, Santiago. By the way, I had at least a second and a half, right? Okay, so we want to turn on some FlexGrid permissions, okay? So before we even start, we can't even get in there. So if I scroll down here and I come down to FlexGrids, look at this. Nothing, okay? I have nothing turned on FlexGrids. So what I'm going to do, same back channel, head towards those user permissions, okay? Pages and permissions, find your name. Okay, we have 3 permissions we're going to turn on for FlexGrids, okay? And what this will do is it'll actually select it all the way around. And as soon as we do this, see you, Steve.
Bye, Steve.
Have a good one. He is a master at FlexGrid, by the way. I was going to have him introduce this concept. He's good at it. Okay, so what we're going to do is the first one is under System Search. We want to be able to use the quick search to do some FlexGrid stuff. So scroll down until you see the word FlexGrid and go ahead and select it. Okay, the next piece of FlexGrid actually deals with under System Maintenance. And you'll see 2 permissions. There's a green one and a red one. The red one is an admin, which actually allows you to control the custom naming convention, okay? So those 3 permissions, that's it. We're going to go bottom of the page, edit the payee. Okay, we're going to go back home. Now, I'm not sure which one you guys actually have turned on. I'm currently on the My Favorites, and so I now have all of my FlexGrid stuff. What we're going to do is, one of the first things we're going to do to introduce FlexGrid is we're going to go to it and we're going to look at the help file because we've broken it down really, really simple, okay? Really simple. So let's go FlexGrid homepage, and there's a little link right here below it. This little graphic looking thing, it actually connects you right to the physical help file. It's the same as going help or help. It's just like a little graphic indicator, okay? Go ahead and click it for just a minute, and we're going to kind of briefly talk about this. So some of you guys have seen the map before. What we did is we kind of outlined our main players, okay? So our main system players. I'm gonna do one other additional thing to kind of introduce this, okay? So if I go back to world building, check this out. See how we have red and yellow and purple and blue and
See you
green?
guys tomorrow. Sorry, I gotta scoot too.
Thanks,
Bye,
David. Have a good one. So check these out. These are our main players. This is just a small little graphic. At the group level, this is what your main players are, okay? So imagine this. Say purple was invoices, yellow was parts, red was customers, green was expenses, blue was deposits. Or like, can you kind of see how those were our main groups inside of Adilas? We have 12 of them. We have 12 of them. So what I'm going to do is going to flip back here and show you what these main pieces are that are in this puzzle, okay? Elements of time, customers, quotes, invoices, users, parts, stock units, POs, vendors, expense receipts, deposits, and balance sheet items. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to actually have, I'm going to probably call on Shannon to kind of help us read this little list, and then we're going to kind of lightly talk about it. This is going to be our light introduction to FlexGrid. Shannon, can you help us out?
Yes. This one on the side?
Yes, please.
Over here. Okay, the FlexGrid tie-in application is like a giant virtual buddy system. Number one, anything in green is considered a main application type or system player.
AKA a group. Alrighty?
2, any main application type, player, group, may be linked or joined to any other main application type or player.
Okay, so what that means is, watch this. A vendor has a natural tie into an expense receipt. Does that make sense? But what if I needed to tie a vendor over to a customer? That's not a natural tie-in. So what it's basically saying is it's saying I can go from group A over to group B, and I can create a dynamic relationship, kind of hold something together. Hey, Johnny really likes M&Ms from the Mars company. Okay, like you can start going like this. Or these are natural connections. Customers are connected to invoices. That sounds pretty standard, right? Well, what if you needed to connect an invoice to an expense because you had to kind of return something? That may not be a natural connection, okay? So what it's doing is you can create some of these unnatural connections through the FlexGrid, okay? It's basically virtual buddy system. Okay, let's go to number 3.
It is also possible to link like same application types together, for example, customers to other customers.
Okay, so let's say, for instance, we have this. Russell Moore and Shannon Moore as independent customers in here. What if we created a little link between them and said, hey, just so you guys know, you guys are brothers and sisters. Okay, so that's like pieces that you can connect together. That's not a normal flow, but you can technically connect them together. Okay, great. Let's go to the next piece.
Each main application type, all the ones in green, may have up to 15 custom fields that may contain special data or values.
Okay, so what number 4 is basically saying is you have your own database that you can put on top of any of these pieces. Okay, so say for instance, let's go right here with customers. Say we needed our own custom database. Say Dan was doing special stuff and he really wanted to know the acreage. Say he's trying to sell golf carts to apartment complexes, okay? So what if he actually wanted a field, hey, how many apartment complexes do they have? What's their total square footage? What's their, like, Atlas doesn't track that, but guess what you can do? You can say, FlexGrid, I need 3 new custom fields, total acreage, total this, total, or how many current golf carts do they have, okay? Like, what do you want to track? You basically can stack a database on top of what we've already added if you want to play in the FlexGrid in that way, okay? Awesome. Okay, Shannon.
5, each of the custom fields listed above gets its own name, title or alias, and optional preset values, so a drop-down list.
Okay, so you can even, literally, you're basically building your own database type thing, okay? Okay, go ahead.
All extra or special fields are fully searchable. Each piece of FlexGrid acts as an assignment or connection within the virtual buddy system.
Great, great, great. So that's kind of a general overview. There's one more piece on this help file that I kind of wanted to show you, is it has 3 basic things that it does, okay? And this is fairly simple, okay? 1, a piece of FlexGrid can record a user-maintained history note, okay? 2, you can use one of the custom fields, okay? Say you need some custom fields. Or 3, you can actually tie pieces together. That's where it's actually talking about the connection. It sounds like it's very complicated. It's incredibly easy to use, okay? Let's do the first scenario, a user-maintained history note, okay? So we've got a bunch of quotes and invoices and customers and users, and we've got one expense in there. We've got a couple vendors. What's a special note we wanted to record? Let's do this. Say we have a customer and there's a clown thing, and we wanted to make sure and record, hey, we got to stay on top of this guy. Like it's not a log, but it's kind of like just a special little, hey, I need to make sure we're on top of this guy, or some sort of, or like something that I just want to record against that thing. I'm just trying to think of a good example for you, okay? So let's do this. I'm going to jump out of the help file, and let's have you do this. Let's go client all. So those who are following along, I'd like you to pick a client. Doesn't even matter who, okay? I'm actually going to go to Joe Public. I'm going to say log. And because I added FlexGrid, I now have a new little link up here, okay? Now what this is going to do is it's going to say I wanted to put a little note and say, hey, this is just like a user-maintained history. Like I could have done this through a log because customers already have that. But say I just wanted to add a little note to this, okay? I'm going to say add the FlexGrid tie-in. It has 3 basic pieces. Who's the main? I'm going to assign this to Joe Public. Does it have any buddies? Do I want to connect? Does it have any custom fields? It looks like currently you're using 1 of 15 with no special things. All I want to do is just record a note. This was our first e-commerce person, or something like this, okay? Add the tie-in. Okay, so now technically what I have here is I'm starting to add some small little pieces to my Joe Public here. Okay, so what I can do is I can actually add these notes anywhere I wanted to. Say I wanted to go to quote number, let's just go to quote 13 for just a minute. Quote 13, Dr. Wilson. And it's just right here. Say I wanted to add a next extra note or something like that. I could literally go like this. Quote, I called him today and we talked about this and that. Does that make sense how it's just a simple, all I did was just boop. Now watch what it does to quote 13. Down here below, I'm virtually creating my own little log note on that quote. Okay, so that's what we call user-maintained history. So anything that I want to do, say I have a vendor and I'm like, oh my goodness, I need to record a note on this vendor. Like, he owes me some money. I need to make sure to collect on this. It's just like small little notes. It's now searchable by a date. It's now searchable by the note pieces, all this kind of stuff. Let's go find a vendor. Let's go vendor. I'm not even sure what we have in here. Okay, so this sculptors vendors. I'm going to actually go edit. I'm going to say add a new FlexGrid tie-in. It's basically here. I'm just going to add a quick note. This guy will give you a deal if you ask, okay? Just a quick little note, but watch this. When I actually add this vendor here, if I scroll down to the bottom of it, guess what? I'm virtually adding notes to this thing. If I wanted to add another one, it's a piece of cake. I'll go ahead and add another one. Oh, my bad, I clicked on the wrong one. Add a new FlexGrid tie-in. Okay, basically what it is any item inside of the system, I virtually have my own little user-maintained notes, wherever. That's one of the ways that you can use the FlexGrid, One of the next ways was the custom fields. Let's actually go in, and I'm going to show you some more information. I'm going to go FlexGrid up here and home, so I can go to the FlexGrid homepage, and we're going to manage some custom fields. Let's say that in our employees, I want to know their shirt size and also kind of like roughly what they do. So watch this. I'm going to scroll down until I can find employees. Currently, I have one called Other One. I'm going to switch this, and I'm going to say I actually wanted to record a shirt size for each employee. Okay. I'm going to edit that field and say I wanted to add another one, employee, and I'm going to say spouse. Click. So check this out. We've got 2 custom fields that we could technically add. I've got up to 15 I can add anywhere I want. Okay. So watch this. So shirt size and spouse. Watch if I go like this. I'm going to go home. Now I'm going to go find my users and permissions again. And I'm going to click on Brandon right here. And say I was like, you know what, I actually want to add some FlexGrid information for him. His shirt size is XL or a large, depending. And his spouse, her name is Heather. Okay? See how I have custom fields that I can add now? Watch this. Add that tie-in. Like, literally, people get scared of FlexGrid, but it's very simple. So now if I'm on Brandon and I scroll down, guess what I now have? Okay? And if I was like, oh yeah, I remembered that there was something in here that had a Heather in it. Search the FlexGrid. What have I got? Oh, Brandon had one, and his spouse's name was Heather. Oh, sweet, sweet, sweet. I found it. Like, virtually, you can, like, the FlexGrid is incredibly powerful. Like, we deal in dynamics. Like, sometimes it's overwhelming, but basically what you do is you figure out what your goal is, what's your need, and then all of a sudden you can do this. Watch this. I'm going to go into Shannon and do her. So I'm going to go right back to the, I'm just going to go home. Once again, I'm just going to drop into the, I don't know if I actually clicked anything.
You can also subcategorize those other categories, which I think is cool. And the first time you showed it, I didn't realize. I thought the 15 fields was just any 15, but each one of the mains is 15, and then you can put all your shirt sizes underneath that, extra small to extra large, and then you could have a drop down.
You guys want to see that?
Yeah, I think that's
Okay,
good to show.
watch this. We'll go to the FlexGrid tie-in homepage. Okay, so I'm finding FlexGrid's homepage. I'm going to manage the custom fields. I'm going to come down here, and under shirt size, watch this, I'm going to edit it, and I'm going to say you are not an open entry field anymore. You're going to basically be a dynamic drop-down or both.
Dynamic drop down.
Watch this.
Then you can
Sweet. Bloop. Now, I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to start adding subs. So watch this. My back button is going to be handy here, okay? Back. Okay, and I'll show you where these things are going. Back. Say I'm going to do a medium. Back. And I'll just do an XL as well. Okay, so now if I scroll down, check this out. Shirt size, here's my subcategories already. So now if I want to go do Shannon, it'll be a piece of cake. Like, this is what she was saying as far as adding subcategories within your categories. So now under shirt size, I'll technically be able to do any of those type of searches. So watch this. I'm going to go back and I'm going to do Shannon. So I'm going to come in here and find Shannon. And here's Shannon as a user. She currently doesn't have anything. If I say add the new FlexGrid tie-in, I'm not trying to tire anything, but I do want to select the shirt size. And currently, A-D-A-I-L-A.
That was so nice of you.
I'm sorry. Okay, so.
Well, the shirt size was nice. I guess you have to make it up on the next one, huh?
I'm going to get in trouble, I can tell.
You're fine.
She's my sister. Okay. So, but basically, just so you know, we already recorded that Shannon has an extra small shirt size type thing. Okay. So, what I wanted to do is just kind of show you what's happening and how we're able to virtually kind of create our own little database on top of the main application that happens. Okay. Okay, so we've covered two of the things, user maintained history, any sort of thing. We also did a couple custom fields, and literally any field I want, I can add it to. So if I need something under invoices, and I needed, who knows, maybe even like, for instance, say e-commerce. Say I needed, hey, is this ship to, is it a delivery, is it a this, is it a this, is it a this? I can actually create that under a flex grid. So once I get the invoice in, I can actually go in and document, hey, I'm Johnny, and I'm fulfilling it, okay? Hey, I'm Tommy, and I said, yep, it's good, I shipped it, or whatever. All of a sudden, that invoice starts getting extra little pieces that are added onto it, depending on what your needs are. So, like, it's huge, huge, huge as far as, like, what you could technically do. We say this, dream it up, and you can do it, okay? That's what we play with. Okay, the other piece that we haven't talked about is let's connect something together, okay? So technically what we can do here, this is very easy. Why don't we actually do a quick flex grid like this? I'm going to search flex grid Heather. Boom, I'm going to find it, and I'm going to edit it, okay? So technically, I entered right here. I'm XL, and Heather is my spouse, okay? So watch this. I could actually connect it to anything else I wanted to on that record. Say I knew Shannon's ID number. I could actually technically connect myself to Shannon to create any sort of relationship if I needed to. What was your question, Russell?
I was going to ask if you can connect pictures to different clients.
Okay.
So I have one picture, but I have, say, 3 different clients on this receipt. But I want to put the picture in and connect to all 3 clients.
Okay, so check this out. Let's actually play this game. I think we have one expense in that we did earlier today, okay? And it has a picture of a check, okay? So basically, this is expense receipt number 1. And you said you wanted to tie it to multiple clients? Okay, watch this. So I know that it's expense receipt number 1. It's important that I know this. This is actually the individual's name. So watch this right here. We were talking about groups. When we get down into individual, expense receipt number 1 is going to end up being connected to customer Shannon and customer Danny. Okay, does that make sense? How we're going to do that? So watch this right here. We're going to jump in here, back into Adilas, and I'm going to go find Danny. Or I could even, what I want to do is I want to start from the source, okay? So I'm going to find client, and I'm going to say Danny. Boom, Danny, log. Okay? So currently somebody added a piece of FlexGrid to him, just a record of a note. Okay? So watch this. I'm going to add another one to him, and I'm going to say, oh, by the way, I want you to hold hands with expense receipt number 1. Okay? No other details needed. Boop. So down here, check this out. It technically would allow me to go right from Danny's customer record. I'm currently on his log. This is his customer information. And I could go right to expense receipt number 1, which would happen to also be for Danny. Okay, this is technically an expense. So watch this. I can also go to Shannon. Sorry. Shannon, okay, yep, this top one, log. And I'm going to actually go and add a flex grid from her. She's also going to be connected to expense receipt number 1. Okay? Whatever it needs to do.
No wonder we're best friends.
Sorry, I'm
so confusing too.
So watch this. I'm now on Shannon's record, but watch this. If I scroll down, I now have a direct link right out to expense receipt number 1 that is tied to Danny. Okay? Click. Now, on expense receipt number 1, the way the current flex grid works right now is if I needed to back tie that, futuristically, what we want to do is what's called the reflexive side, which is basically where we show you, hey, cool, I'll show you all your different connections. But if I wanted to back tie that, I would literally have to make a little entry from this expense out to Shannon and out to Danny. Okay? Kind of, that way it would be full circle, if that makes sense. So what I'm going to do is basically I need to grab some, I'm just going to show you how I would do it. I would find Danny, I would find his client ID number. This is Danny's literally behind the scenes. This is how I'm going to connect him. Boom. I just did a copy and a paste. Now I'm going to come here to expense receipt number 1, go to it, and I'm going to say add the new FlexGrid tie-in, and I'm going to say I want you to be connected to a sub-client ID of this. Come down, do it. So once I submit this and it actually hits the system, what I will see is at the bottom it's actually adding a new little connection out to Danny as a customer. Okay? It's just still thinking here for a second. And I know it's the end of the day and it's kind of like, wow, this isn't exactly what I wanted to do ending the day. But you don't have to use FlexGrid at all. But if you have a need for it, it's virtually another application on top of the application. I'm going to go ahead and say stop right here. And I'm going to say add the tie-in. It may duplicate it. No problem. I'll just delete it if I need to. Kind of seems like everything's kind of stalling out right now.
End of the day.
Yeah, yeah.
Everyone's closing.
5 o'clock, everybody's checking their email. They just logged out. Okay, anyway, what I wanted to show you is that it kind of connected. It's kind of just struggling right now. Let's go ahead and just call it a day, and we will pick up here later on. Awesome, guys. That was a lot right at the end of the day. That was literally like, let me see if I can. Okay, so basically it looks like here's a couple other little things that were happening as far as some of the FlexGrid pieces that were going on. We'll touch that later, okay, and we'll try to take that a little softer. Thank you, guys.
Included with tomorrow's stuff too, right?
Oh, for sure, for sure. So check this out. Sometimes when you're actually doing accounting, you have to be like, oh my goodness, we have to like connect this to this because something funky goes on. I had this invoice, and then I got this return, and then I had to do this, and then they ended up coming, like, there's a story. And so what the FlexGrid does is that it actually helps you link that story up together so everything works together. And so you can track it. That's how you help it. So yes, we will play with that. I realize that was a lot right at the end of the day. So good stuff. Any other comments on that before we close?
I have one for you personally, Brandon, unless everybody else wants to hear it.
Go ahead. We're just kind of closing down, so go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if you have an item, so whether it's an invoice or customer or something, so I have that specific customer. Is there any way that I can, to a field or a window, that I can connect to a couple other things of my choice?
Like multi-connecting things?
But just from that single item. So I want to connect this invoice to Shannon and Danny, but I don't want to go into a bunch of different fields. I just want to go to one window and say, I want it here and here, almost like these little subcategories that I can shoot it off into.
Basically what it is the FlexGrid would exist, and then each one is an individual record. And so what you would actually do is you'd have to say, hey, it looks like that would be a custom need, and all we would do is we would build it so that you could do, especially if that's a common practice, we would say, hey, that's probably $200. We can build you a custom page to do that. Which basically would pull in your external information. It could be, I want this one, this one, this one, this one, go. And what we do in the background is whatever you said, this one, this one, this one, you were just making a selection. We loop over it in the background. He just added 5 pieces of FlexGrid. Okay, but possible, but I would say that's custom at this point. Awesome.